Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Want to welcome everyone to today's session. We'll be talking about Stratum Access Hub and setting up alerts. So using actions to set up alerts and alert your users to basically any type of data condition that you can build into a view. So I'll show you an example of how we'll set one up today, and it's all kind of starts with the view, right? So you want to set up the view within Stratum so that it contains the data that you want to build the expression off or the filter off of, because you're going to alert them to a situation where, you know, it's only going to show them the issue, right? So you don't want to bother them otherwise. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And there'll be actions set up for that. So you'll set up an action on top of that view to define, how you would send that out. So, and then you would group it and schedule it. So we're going to be talking about that today, and I'll be doing a demo of that. We'll be concentrating on the Access Hub side of things, as you can see, which includes the email distribution, which is kind of what we're concentrating on today. But as you can see, it contains some other features as well. So if you are licensed for the Access Hub, you get access to all of that. But today we'll be focusing on the email distribution, basically using actions to alert users to situations within Stratum. So what I want to do is, let me make an adjustment here. Okay. So basically, I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you basically how to build this action, and then we will group it and schedule it. We'll kind of go through a simulation of that, and you'll see, what we would use for the view. So I'm going to use my demo environment to go in and gain access to a view that basically shows me open orders for all my products. And as you can see, it's we're not filtering on any product per se, and it's really customer driven. So this particular view has customer on my rows, and then as you can see, we're using time to kind of show the future of orders that are coming, they're due, right? So we have these orders that are due. Some of them are past due, so they're weeks ago, previous week. All those are late, so we need to obviously get moving on those. And then what's in the future, right? So what's in the hopper? And so this will kind of, this view alone tells us some things, but I don't want to throw all this data at everybody. I just want to alert, some basically make a large amount, some amount alert, right? So I can kind of corral the customers into a group that are critical, that have a lot of volume, right? And so we need to prioritize those and get that stuff out. So that's my business scenario, and I'm going to use this view to drive that alert. Okay. Um, so I have all the data that I need here, and I really want to essentially drive this alert by using a filter. And I'm going to go all the way over here to my grand total, and I'm going to right click and add a filter um, to that. So I'm going to go down to filter edit and add a filter to the grand total column. And I'm going to have it, greater than, and I'm going to use my units to drive that. And I know that at 8,000, I'm intimate with the business, and I know that 8,000 is a lot of units, and that's what I want to use as my factor. And as you can see right away, I put it on the wrong column, so I'm going to clear that out, and I'm going to put it on my units there instead. So we'll do the filter edit on that, And no big deal. You could always clear that out and get it done properly. And we'll do the 8,000. And we'll make it greater than or equal to 8,000. All right, so we'll click OK to that. That pares the list down quite a bit. And so now we're looking at 6 accounts that really that meet the criteria, right? And this is the lists that I want to send out to everyone so that they are aware of they're aware of this, right? And these are the priority orders that we need to get out. They can then, once they get this, they could they'll have a link to get back to this view to do further analysis on it. Maybe they want to go to the product or drill down to the brand level, which will allow them to do that type of analysis. They'll need to get rid of that filter in order to drill to brand. So, because the filter stays alive, so they would need to either hide that column or clear that filter in order to see that at brand level. Okay, so when I do that drill down, as you can see, it blanks out everything because my filter is still alive over here. So we'll simulate that in a second. So this is it. This is the one I want to use, and so I'm going to build an action off of this. So I'm going to right click anywhere on the grid. It doesn't really matter where, and then you can do go to your actions. And I guess the first thing I would do is display any actions that already include this view. Maybe the action already exists. That's always something to look for. Maybe something that you don't need to build. Maybe somebody already did it. So there's there's a concept here where you can look for any actions that might already be built into this view. And as you can see, there's no actions. So that's my green light to go ahead and add this action in. So I'm going to go to my actions. I'm going to add an action. And I'm going to name this action the Stratum Big Hitter Alert, or Big Order, whatever you want to call it. And we'll fill that in as my title. I can then describe it as, this is the list of accounts that priority in order to get these order volumes out. You can type whatever you want there, right? I'm going to make mine global so that everyone can see it, and it becomes part of the application in terms of some other folks once I retire or move on, perhaps. This is still part of the application. It's not tied to my personal user ID. So, you do have that concept of a personal versus a global alert that you could build. Thing is you need to decide whether this is going to be a company-wide, this is the ipso facto alert, right? Or is it just something that I'm building as I might be a business analyst or a supply chain analyst or whatever, or a sales rep for that matter. And I just want to, this is for me, this is my world, and I'm building a personal one for me. So that concept, a personal alert, that exists as well for those purposes. So, I want to process this for myself. I can also go in and look for other users there. If I want to include other users, I can then go in and find other folks that I might want to include as well for the email, because it will be an email. You could set it at being an alert. It probably should be an email, so that but you could dump it down to a file on the network. The folks will still get an email so that they know it's there. So that's how that would work. But I'll keep this in email. It's going to be an Excel file that we'll send as a report. You can also just include it as a picture of the view. We call it include as a text, but it actually comes across as I believe, some sort of JPEG or a GIF image view file, and it's nice. I mean, we can simulate that as well. Let's do the attachment here. If this was perhaps maybe multiple views that might be in the mix for this action, we're only going to have one. But if we did have multiple views, because you can have multiple views per action, You can dictate whether it's going to send one Excel file or multiple. It could parse out multiple files for each view that you include, or just one Excel file with multiple um, spreadsheets within that workbook. So you can, I like to keep it single. The less attachments, the better. And then the view, if you do have multiple views, they'll all be part of that single file. Here, I like to. There's a couple things here that you can kind of think about. You can use it as a report, a nice looking report, or if you just need the raw data. I like using the Excel report because I'm sending this out to people like sales reps and whatnot that I want it to look good. I want it to look nice. If I were to sending, maybe if I was sending it to a file that I'm integrating to another application, or maybe if this file had thousands and thousands and thousands of rows in it, then I might consider Excel, just using Excel data, which is just raw data. There's no formatting, none of the traffic lighting would come across, and that basically saves time. So it actually produces thousands of data much faster than the Excel report option. But I want it to look nice. I know that this report obviously only has 6 rows in it, so clearly it's not going to be an issue there. So we'll keep it as an Excel report. Do I want to include view details? I would always recommend that you turn that on. You don't have to, and as you can see by default, it's off. But this will tell you just basically, it's almost like metadata for the view. Do you have a filter going on? How many rows and columns are visible? What's the name of it? Is there a link back to it? Stuff like that. So good stuff to have, I think. If you do want to override, there's a default file name for basically, I think that's just part of global settings, but you can override that if you wanted to and give it a different file name. I'm just going to go with the default there. Down on the email section, this will dictate what the email will say. I'm going to actually change this to match the name of the action. So I'm going to copy and paste that into the subject piece of the email. And yeah, fix that little typo there. Do you see that? Stratum. Okay, so we got rid of that. That looks good. That's what I want. And then you can type in anything else here. These are the items to, these are priority, must ship immediately, all kinds of things to say. So you put that in. And then do you want to include a link back to the view? I'm going to leave all this on. I'll leave this off. So this is really kind of what makes it an alert. Do you want to send an email when there's no return on that filter, right? For instance, if there were no customer accounts that met that filter criteria, the view would have returned nothing or no rows. Hence, I don't want to send an email. I don't want to bother them if there's nothing in the alert, right? So I'm going to say no to that. And so that when we schedule this and we run it on a daily basis or weekly or whatever frequency, the users are only going to get bothered if that view returns data. Otherwise, they're not going to get an email. And that's really what makes it an alert. So make sure that you turn that to no. And so you're not bothering them with just empty, an email with an empty file in it. Who wants that? Okay. So we turn that off, and then obviously the next option becomes moot, so we don't have to deal with it. There's our view. We could add additional views into this if we wanted to. Maybe there's different perspectives of open orders that are huge, etc. But we're just going to roll with one view. And so as you can see, you can manage your list of views here within the action. It's not in a group yet, but we could certainly add one right here as we are right here. I'll add it into the daily flash reports. That simple. And I think you have to save that. Yeah, it's been added. So there it's in the daily flash report broadcast group. And yeah, we're good to go. I think we're going to go ahead and save it. So that saved away nicely, and then we're going to go ahead and run it from here as well. You will get warned. Could take some time. Uh, this will run very quickly. So boom, just kicked it off. It's now going to analyze that view. It's going to apply that filter behind the scenes, and I'm going to get an email. I'm going to get a couple emails actually, and one of them is telling me that the job completed. So me being the owner of the job, I get this so that I know that this thing is running properly. So once you schedule this, the administrators will get this email so that they know things are hunky dory, as they say. So that's cool. And then here's the actual alert, and there it is. So now I'm playing the role of a sales rep. I get my email. These are priority. Oh gosh. And then there's my link back to the view, and then there's my alert. So and then I can highlight that, and I can then get um, all rows of the file. So what went wrong here? We don't have the filter didn't get applied. So let's go back and let's see what we did wrong. So this has been saved. This action has been saved at least. We're going to get out of this, and I don't think we actually saved this view. So I'm going to go ahead and save it now. And I'm going to rerun that alert. So I think that's what went wrong, right? So, we didn't quite, we saved the action, but this change I made, this filter I added, really haven't saved that yet. So I clicked on save, and I can do that again here. I always feel comfortable rerunning the view as needed. Run it for everything, and boom, there it is. So, okay, so we're cool. I think this is good, and then we'll go in. We'll go back into analyst tools, back to action, or I certainly can go here, display the actions in this view, and I can then I can't kick it off from there. So I'm going to go back to my manage analyst tools into action. Here's my Stratum big order alert there. I can also sort this. So, last time the job completed, and then it comes right on top. Let's kick that off again. I'm going to click on the process. Now that it's highlighted, you can click on the process button, and it then kicks off another alert. So just doing a little testing here on the fly. And we'll see, there's the email. And again, we got the big order alert, and boom, if we highlight that, that's what we want to see. So here we have the alert coming through, and indeed, now I can just concentrate on these 5 accounts, right? Instead of sending them everything. I'm glad actually it did that, because then you can kind of see the difference between what the alert would send versus just the action itself with no filter, right? Or a view with no filter, right? So the filter is key, right? That's key. And then once you set that up, then you're good to go. I mean, it's really the magic of the filter that's going to do the work of deciding what rows get sent out to these analysts. So cool. So that's how you would set that up. And again, coming back to the view, it's part of that, how you set up the view and that filter. As you can see, I've got a prompt here. Doesn't matter. It's asking me, select a product. I can bypass, as long as the prompt is built so that it's not required, you can still build an alert off of this view, even though it's got a prompt on it. So that doesn't prevent you from building that. So, if we go back into analyst tools, again, we can see all the actions that have been created. We can go in and see the broadcast groups, and then we can also see any schedules that are created as well. And there's the daily schedule that runs. Doesn't run daily, clearly, but hasn't run since 2024. No biggie. This is just this demo environment, but this is, you might have a bigger list, or if you're just starting to use the product, this will grow typically. And so you'll set up your schedules here and then attach your groups. So if we take a look at this particular schedule, we can see that it's a daily schedule, or at least it's meant to be. It's global. There's some other options here we won't cover, but it's kind of like, organizing and keeping things locked and together. Here we can see that we've got a couple of groups that are tied to the schedule. So, and then we know that the action that we just built, we applied it and saved it under the daily flash reports. So rest assured, once you apply your action to that group, you don't have to. So therefore, it's not scheduled. But once you apply it to any one of these groups that are scheduled, it will run. Okay, and it will run, and it will run on a daily basis, or whatever group you put it into, right? Because the group then is attached to its respective schedule, and that's how it all comes together, by using the Access Hub and by using a broadcast server, right? So that's how you can do some of that stuff, and then set it up, so that you can start alerting your users as needed, and they can be more proactive with their business.